What if I told you there was one meal you could eat every day that took about 2 minutes to prepare, tasted amazing, and meant that you leaned out, maximized muscle growth, and got your body in the best shape imaginable without having to worry about anything else with your diet? It'd be about the closest thing to a silver bullet that exists, right? Well, I've maintained a six-pack for over 14 years while consistently building muscle and hitting my strength goals. And my diet is so far from the disciplined, clean, fit nutrition that you see on the internet. I basically eat whatever I want on vacation, listen to my appetite. I eat large volumes without having to worry about weight gain. But there is one thing that I make sure I get right with my nutrition. It's a simple meal that I eat almost every single day on repeat. And I basically put all my success with body composition and my ability to progress in my training down to this one key habit. So in this video, I'm going to explain what the logic is behind this meal, why it works so incredibly well, and then show you how you can implement this exact same strategy yourself if you want to lose body fat, maximize muscle and strength gains, and ensure you hit your dream physique as soon as possible. So what actually matters when it comes to nutrition, not only for building muscle and strength, but also for health and longevity? Sure, we can eat healthy food, stay hydrated, get a balance of nutrients, avoid processed food, and so forth. And there's one thing most guys get wrong, and that's protein intake. Specifically loading up on way too much protein in hopes to build more muscle. We can make lots of mistakes with our diet, but if we focus too much on our protein intake, two very unhelpful things happen. The first is there's a trade-off with other nutrients that we could be getting and we may be missing out on, which means we're immediately shortchanging our return on investment of time and effort, which is an obscene waste. And typically this comes with more fat gain, especially with how most guys get their protein, which means a slower transformation. It takes us longer to get leaner because of the additional calories and excess fat consumption. But even worse than that, if we overconsume protein, science shows that our body stores this as fat. The only reason you would need to really focus on eating more protein is if you are of an old age or a competitive athlete or have been told by your doctor to do so. And so if our body gets too much protein as well as calories and fat, we get too full to even consume other nutrient-dense foods. And this means we end up eating more calories than we need by default, just because we want more protein. Imagine buying a spice mix, only to find out it's been loaded with lead just to meet the weight stated on the package. In other words, it doesn't only come filled with what you want, but a bunch of crap too. Overeating on your protein is very much like that. Just like staying lean, let alone losing body fat, gaining muscle, and getting leaner, is just so much harder than it needs to be. And as I said, it does not need to be a crazy amount. I'll show you what this looks like in a second and how you can hit it. But basically, 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day is what you should aim for, and any more is a plus. So for me, I weigh 58 kilos or 123 pounds, so that's 47 grams of protein a day. Calculate this number once, and then you don't have to think about it again. And as I said, I'll show you how to set up a simple rule that works for you that you can use to hit it. If you weigh less than me, you'll need less protein. Weigh more, then you'll need more. But for most people, 80 to 90 grams of protein a day is going to be ample. There's no point worrying about protein unless you have a good enough reason to. Think of the order of importance of things when you're trying to build a better body. Number one thing we want is nutrition. That's going to give our body the building blocks it needs to respond to training, growth. Then our training, that's going to drive all the changes we want and allow nutrition to actually do something. Only then is there any point worrying about calorie intake. And until this is a habit locked into your routine, there's no point trying to stack another skill on top of that. It's much better to focus on one thing at a time, get it right, make it an effortless habit, then you can move on to the next thing. So much better than trying to do everything at once and then it all falling apart and you give up and get nowhere. The other part to this is once you get your nutrition in place, often you'll find yourself dropping weight just by default, purely by trying to eat enough whole and minimally processed foods. I see this again and again with clients because you tend to stay fuller for longer and the need for snacks and additional meals will drop. So get this right and you might find that this is all you ever need to worry about with your diet, ever. Just remember, your body is not the enemy. It thrives off being healthy and lean, but it can only do that if you've got enough muscle mass, which requires a nutrient-dense and a sufficient amount of protein so that your appetite can work properly. So you see the point. That's why it's important to put most of your efforts in the nutrition department, and surprisingly enough, protein will follow. The question is not what. That's simple. The question is how. How do we optimize our nutrition intake for maximum sustainability so that this happens by default easily, long term. Most people make it so much harder than it needs to be, and that's the reason they fail. Most people, for whatever reason, eat bland food and chug protein shakes, which means this component of their diet ends up being boring, something they don't look forward to, and that's never going to fly long term. People often try to load up on the protein intake for each meal, 3, 4, 5 meals, and then protein snacks in between. Literally protein everything. This just interferes with your life and makes it impossible to live a normal routine, and is completely unnecessary. If eating out, spending time with family and friends, eating healthy, or just being busy makes it harder to reach your fitness goals, then you're screwed. Because either your gains or your life are suffering, and neither of which are good outcomes. So just understand that you can actually enjoy all those things and still reach your fitness goals. And it's the only way that I've sustained this long term. I'll show you what I do shortly to give you some ideas. But first, food should taste great, especially nutrient-dense foods, aka healthy foods. Your body wants to feed on this type of food. That's why after such meals, you often feel less heavy, have steady energy levels, and you're much happier. So if you're not looking forward to eating less processed, more healthy foods, then you might just need to look for recipes that actually excite you. Perhaps ones that give you the best of both worlds. So there's no good reason not to find one opportunity each week where you prep delicious and healthy meals for the next few days, if not a week. That should fit any lifestyle whatsoever. And if you're smart about it, do something like what I do. 30 to 60 minutes a week minimum is more than enough to do all your prep and cooking, which adds up to being less time than it would take for you to go and buy lunch every day. So if we can solve these 3 big issues of taste, convenience, and time, then we should have a routine that you look forward to, fits effortlessly around your daily routine, and takes next to no time out of your week to sustain. That's how we're going to win the long game, which is how we get real results. So here's how I achieve this. And sorry if this is disappointingly simple, but that's the point. I have just over time engineered out all the friction, all the inconvenience from my routine by removing every part of this process that was not necessary, much like with training. So to give you the framework, and this might look different for you, I think, what meal can I have every day that I can easily prepare at night for the next 3 to 5 days and without cooking? Plus a perfect opportunity for me to get in a nutrient-dense meal, one that will fuel my entire workday. So I just eat it all in one sitting and forget about food. And because my job is physical, if my lunch can be light, nourishing, and energizing, that's a win-win-win. Put very simply, given you have no allergies and perfect for vegans too, 1 cup oats for steady energy and fullness with 10 grams of protein. 1 cup milk of choice with added calcium for strong muscle and bones. I'm using soy for 8 grams of protein. You could literally stop here with just oats and milk, but that's honestly not as nutritious as it could be. So to take nutrition to the next level, I usually add 1 tablespoon chia seeds, 1 tablespoon ground flax, both for omegas, adding 4 grams of protein. 1 tablespoon hemp seeds for 3 grams of protein and healthy fats. 2 tablespoon pumpkin or mixed seeds for vitamins and minerals, 5 grams of protein. 1/4 cup nuts for healthy fats and added protein for heart and brain health, 5 grams of protein. 1/2 cup frozen blueberries or any fruit of choice for antioxidants, energy and fiber. Optional add-ons include sweetener of choice. I use goji berries and raisins to keep it healthier. Here I'm adding tofu cream, but you can also use yogurt for more protein and fullness. All this comes to about 30 to 40 grams of protein and 900 to 1,000 calories. This meal alone gives me 2/3 of my daily protein requirement, all from whole foods. So you'll want to keep this in the fridge overnight, or you can even make it in the morning of. But because I take this to work, I usually let it sit for about an hour or so that the oats can soak up the liquid and firm up, or simply just throw it in the microwave for 30 to 60 seconds. You can literally eat this straight from the fridge or microwave if you prefer it warm. And if it's too dry at the time of your meal, you can add more water or milk. So I make this twice a week, 2 to 3 days in advance, and I eat this every day for lunch. That works for me. It might seem like a lot of food for you, but realistically, it's a pretty standard sized meal. Plus it's nutrient dense, packed full of protein, and essential vitamins and minerals. But keep in mind, you can increase or decrease the portions depending on your needs. So that's the framework in terms of preparing it 1 to 2 times a week. Sometimes I get lazy on Sunday, so I literally make this in the morning on Monday. And that's 2 lunches sorted in just 4 to 5 minutes. On the weekend, it's easy enough to make it that you can just do it on the day. Some people like to cook it on the stove if you want it more mushy, as I call it, but I prefer to microwave for at least 60 seconds with milk or water. That's it. It's such a great tool to have whenever you're starving or you need something quick, nutritious, and healthy. That's one of my 3, sometimes 2 meals that I have daily, made in almost no time. As for my other meals, I tend to make double of a recipe so I can just eat it throughout the week without having to cook every day. The key thing is to make sure every meal you're including at least one serving of a major protein source. And to be honest, I don't track my macros, so I'll just make sure I'm eating a variety of foods. If it's mostly whole foods and not highly processed junk, then I know I'll be okay protein-wise. Otherwise, if you want to be sure, an easy way to get your protein in for the day, especially if you're going with 0.8 grams per kilo, is to divide your protein numbers by the number of meals you plan to have that day. So for example, 60 grams of protein. The simplest way is to aim for 20 grams of protein per meal. This could all come from your major protein source. But keep in mind, most if not all whole foods, including vegetables, have some protein in them, and it all adds up in the end. After that, your only goal left in the day is to make sure you eat enough food. And I'll say this, calories don't really matter, especially if you're eating mostly whole foods. For me, this is especially true. I try to stop eating around 80% fullness, give or take 10%, and for the last 14 years, I haven't had an issue with weight or fat gain. Personally, I don't track my calories and I'm still able to stay lean and build muscle and strength. But if you're concerned about calories, it's worth tracking for a day or two using the free Chronometer app. So now that you've hit your essentials, maximizing nutrition and getting enough protein, you're going to feel amazing in and outside of the gym, and also recover faster from training. So you can literally just listen to your body and you'll learn to trust it much more now that it's working properly and you're satisfying it. It becomes much harder to overeat once you get this right. You're going to feel more full and satisfied, and you're going to start to see the changes you want in terms of body recomposition, muscle gain, fat loss, and maintaining the results you get very easily. So I hope this gives you something practical to implement. If you want to dive deeper into my training method to build muscle and strength in under 10 minutes a day, I'd suggest watching this video. That's it. See you in the next one.